to say that, no, there were epochs between those times, and that during one of those epochs there was a civilization on Earth, and they try to excuse the dinosaur bones and all the fossils for being then. Basically, they don't go into the assumption that maybe it was the flood that created all those things, which I believe. But so they try to excuse that stuff away by saying there was a pre-Adamic civilization that got destroyed, and then he made Adam and Eve, which is kind of dumb because, Adam and Eve brought sin into creation. The Bible is quite clear about that. And then there was only one creation, and Adam and Eve brought him in, and there was no sin before Adam and Eve. So how would there be a destruction of the world because people sinned? It just didn't happen. Anyway, one of the scriptures that Yahweh uses, he tells the Adam and Chava to be fruitful and multiply, and that's what they say. Well, and he tells them to replenish the earth. Okay, now usually when a word has "re" in front of it, it means to do it again, and it makes a lot of sense that people would think replenish means to do it again, to fill it again. But if you look at the original wordage, and you look at the 1828 dictionary, the Webster's, which was the authority for many, many years before they had to write bastardized versions to accommodate word bastardization. But if you look at the word replenish in the Webster's 1828, it only means to fill. So God wasn't saying to replenish the earth; He's saying to go fill the earth. Okay. Now, when He told Noah to go out and replenish the world, then that was a genuine replenishing because the world was destroyed. The civilization that existed before it were destroyed. So that would be a modern day replenishing with that definition. But the original definition was to fill, and that's what God meant both times, actually. Now, I wanted to look at the word encompass because it interested me. So I went to the 1828 Webster's Dictionary and looked up encompass. And it says it's a transitive verb. It says to encircle, to surround, as a ring. As a ring encompasses the finger. To environ, to enclose, to surround, to shut in. A besieging army encompassed the city of Jerusalem. That's a example they're using. Or it could mean to go or sail around as Drake encompassed the globe. Okay? Drake encompassed the globe. So I guess, these people that go into the flat earth try to say that NASA is all behind this, showing us pictures of globes that aren't really globes. It really gets into ludicrousy that you would never imagine. But I guess Sir Francis Drake was part of the great conspiracy that NASA has endeavored to fool us all that there's a round earth, right? Now, isn't it interesting that Drake sailed around the world and arrived at a starting point without falling off the end of the earth? Wow. And he didn't run into the Antarctic wall. And I'm going to explain. I got a picture that's on this thing that I'm going over here. And I'm going to describe the way it looks, okay? But we'll get down to that in a minute. But now, another argument they use, and I call it the face of the earth argument. Hold on, folks. I'm going to get a little something to drink. Maybe that would make my throat feel a little better, and I wouldn't be hacking into the microphone. I was smart enough to bring a bottle of fluid up here with me. Yeah, I'll admit, it's a Coke. Okay. Now, flat earthers believers often use the fact that the Bible uses the term face of the earth. And it uses it in a multitude of places, too. They argue that something can have only one face, that every other part of the earth would have to be a side or a back. Now, they often go, well, look at a human head. It's got a face, and then you got the two sides and the back. And, if you're gonna use it so literally as to use that, I guess maybe it could be true. But let's look at some of this stuff. Now, the word that Scripture uses, the word face in these Scriptures, is panim. And you would spell that transliterated P-A-N-I-Y-M. It can mean face or faces. And I'm getting this right up from the source, folks. It means face or faces. Face or surface of the ground, so to speak. And it can mean face or front of. Now, one has to remember that any Hebrew word that ends in something that sounds like im, like Jews are referred to as Yehudim, not Jew, but Jews. Prophets, Nephi is, if you have more than one prophet, the Nephim. The Nephil from before the flood, more than one of them, Nephilim. Now, let's see, kings in Hebrew is Melech, and so you want more than one king, Melachim, or Malach is the word for angels. More than one angel, Malachim. It's interesting that Melachim and Malachim sound so much alike, so it almost makes you wonder if God refers to angels as kings. Anyway, and don't take that as being doctrine, okay? It's just an oddity that I was putting out there. Now, it's the same word with panim, excuse me. It means it's a plural of it's a plural of the word panah, and it's a verb which means to turn or face. Now, the flat earth people say that there can only be one face, okay? But the fact is that the word is plural, okay, panim, and by being plural, right away it means more than one face, okay? Now, let's see. If we look at Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 6, we see when Ezekiel encountered what most of us think was a seraphim, and he's describing a seraphim, and he said everyone had 4 faces, and everyone had 4 wings. Well, that could be 4 heads, one with each face, or it could be one head with 4 faces. Okay, I tend to think that it was one head that had 4 faces, and each head had 4 faces. There was more than one head. But now again, the word for face is panim, and it's obviously plural, denoting that the 4 faces existed at once on one entity. Okay, so the earth can have more than one face. It's just one face is lit at a time. Okay, the earth turns, another face is lit at a time. It's not that hard to figure out. Unless you want to see, then you have to make it hard. Okay, so we've determined that the face of the earth is actually the side that's facing the sun, that's visible. We've determined that that the circle of Earth isn't exactly a circle as Euclidean geometry would concur, but it's actually a globe. Okay. And we've concluded that their argument that the Earth is on pillars is true, but it's not on the pillars like they're saying it. They're actually it's actually the Earth, meaning the land or the continents, on volcanic pillars that reach down to the mantle. Okay. So, we've gone that far so far. Now, let's see. The ends of the earth argument. Okay. Another phrase that is in Scripture is the ends of the earth. It's many places in Scripture. Yes, this does sound like there's a terminal point on the earth, a place where you can go no further. But it is only true that would only be true on a 1 or 2 dimensional plane. When you add in a 3rd dimension or even a 4th, which I concur is what we live in, 4 dimensions, and it can be many different things. The scripture that flat earth people use is in Job 37:3. He directed it under the whole heaven, and his lightnings unto the end of the earth. The Hebrew word for ends in this scripture is kanaf, and it's defined as several things: a wing, an extremity, an edge, a winged border, a corner, a shirt, and it can mean the skirt or corner of a garment. Okay? Now think about these words. The only 3 that could be close to the context of Scripture are extremity, edge, or border. Now I had to rule out edge because the word denotes that there's something on the other side of the edge, and a border denotes that there's an area on the other side of the border. Okay? The only word that works is extremity. So I went to the 1823 Webster's again to look at a definition of extremity, and here's the following result. Okay, extremity, it's a noun. The Latin is extremitas, and it means the utmost point or side, the verge, the point or border that terminates a thing, as in the extremities of a country, the utmost parts, the extremities of the body. In painting a sculpture are The extremities of a body when you're painting a sculpture are the head, the hands, and the feet. But in anatomy, the term is applied only to the limbs, okay, the arms and the legs, okay. Now, it does have other definitions, but they do not fit into this context or even come close to the context of this scripture. Now, the utmost part's definition speaks for itself. It could denote a spherical earth. The other definitions fit into the flat earth scheme of things, but we have to remember that we live in a four-dimensional universe. As far as we can tell anyway, that's what we can see. Yes, paintings appear to be one-dimensional and they're flat, but in reality, they are three-dimensional because you have the canvas, and then you have the frame, and you have the side of the frame, and the back of the canvas, and the back of the frame and stuff. So they are three-dimensional. Also, the extremities of the body, when seen on a piece of paper, like in a textbook, they're one-dimensional, maybe two. Yet on a real human being, the legs are three-dimensional. They possess dorsal, ventricle, and lateral properties. Likewise, the extremity ends at the toes. Okay, if you were to follow the leg down, you'd go from like the hip all the way down to the toes. But one could reach under the toes, back up under the heel, and then back up the back of the leg because they're three-dimensional. Okay? So, extremity is a very interesting word, and it's a three-dimensional word, and a flat earth is going to be one or two dimensions at the best, but a spherical earth is three dimensions, and that's what we need to remember. Now, a typical model of flat earth. Now, before we can proceed, we need to discuss, and you can't see this, I've got it in front of me, but I'll describe it to you. It's a typical model of a flat earth. What is the central theme of most people that believe in the Earth? Believe the Earth could agree on this drawing, or I guess it's a drawing. Most flat Earth people agree that there is a dome above the Earth, and that dome lies anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000 miles. Most adherents believe in the first altitude, 2,500 miles. Also, most of the flat Earth people believe that the sun and the moon exist within the dome, although some believe that the two heavenly bodies are just outside the dome. And they believe that the sun and the moon are much smaller than scientists hold them to be, and that we've been taught all these years, and that these two bodies move over the Earth in a circular fashion. A few believe that the sun rotates behind the flat circular Earth, but they cannot explain why this wouldn't result in 12 hours of perpetual darkness over the whole Earth. Now, what I've got here is it basically looks like a plate. Okay, it looks like a plate that somebody has painted flat Earth on, with the North Pole in the center. Okay, very center of the plate, and above that plate there's an orbital plane where the sun is on one side and moon's on the other. Okay, and there you have the basic plate, and so at the edge of the plate is what's called the Antarctic Wall by the flat earthers, and because you got to put the Antarctic someplace, right? So they put it all around the plate. Thus, I'll get into that later, but anywhere you go, if you kept going, you'd run into the Antarctic. They must really like the Antarctic a lot. Now, the flat Earth hypothesis that I just talked about, if you look at it, the sun is at such a level that it would there would always be some sort of sunlight over the whole Earth 24 hours a day. Even in the illustration that I was looking at and I described to you, we were able to see all the continents at the same time. Now, also taking into account that the highest mountains in the world, they would be lit up some way by the ambient light coming from the sun, shining on the other side of the flat Earth. Conduct an experiment, okay? This is real easy to do. Some night, go to any place that has a large white wall, okay? Imagine a large circle on that wall, or if you're allowed to, even draw a large circle on it. But if it's public property or something, not yours, don't draw a circle on it, okay? Now imagine that large circle on the wall and shine a flashlight onto about the first third of the circle, okay, because that's where it's showing the sun is. Notice that the light, let's just stand back about 5 feet from your large circle, Okay, now shine that light about a third of the way